It is the afternoon of June 24th, 1944. Over the freezing, violent swells of the Norwegian Sea, an aircraft flies a solitary patrol. At the controls is Flight Lieutenant David Pop Hornell, a seasoned pilot flying a routine anti-submarine mission. He pilots a Consolidated Catalina, a massive flying boat specifically equipped to hunt down and destroy enemy naval vessels from above. Over the intercom, the portside gunner breaks the silence. He asks Hornell to check his left window. Floating in the distance on the heavy seas is the distinct silhouette of a German U-boat. Hornell immediately triggers the action station's alarm. He banks the flying boat hard toward the enemy, readying 4 depth charges for an attack run. Below, the spotters on U-boat 1225 see the aircraft approaching and sound their own alarm. Instead of diving to hide, Commander Ernst Sauerberg orders evasive maneuvers and directs his anti-aircraft crew to aim right at the Catalina. The submarine opens fire. Twin 20mm rounds and heavy 37mm flak shells tear through the air, punching large holes straight through the aircraft's thin outer skin. As the plane shudders under the impacts, Hornell orders his radio operator, Sidney Cole, to broadcast their coordinates to base and keep headquarters updated on the firefight. Before Cole can finish tapping out the first transmission, a flak shell rips right through the radio compartment. Cole takes a hit, groans in pain, but pushes the transmitter key anyway, completely unaware that the blast has shattered the radio equipment. Hornell pushes the plane into a steep dive, flying straight into a wall of tracer fire. He believes headquarters is tracking their position, but no signal is leaving the aircraft. They are fighting entirely alone. The incoming fire intensifies. German rounds rip away pieces of the right wing, and a direct hit on the starboard engine sends a massive ball of fire gushing from the cowling. Hornell wrestles with the flight controls. The burning engine violently shakes the airframe, pushing the Catalina off course as they barrel closer to the U-boat's guns. In the nose of the aircraft, the front gunner unleashes his twin .303 Brownings. The bullets rain down accurately on the U-boat's conning tower, striking the German crew and silencing the anti-aircraft cannons for a few crucial seconds. With the gunfire momentarily suppressed, Hornell makes a final split-second course correction. He flies the flaming plane directly over the submarine and releases his payload. The depth charges splash perfectly into the water around the hull. The explosion rips the U-boat apart. Despite taking devastating damage, Hornell's crew successfully destroys their target. But their victory comes at the cost of their aircraft. Hornell looks out to see the burning engine shaking its own mounts apart, ripping fuel lines and bolts directly off the wing. He knows they cannot make it back to base. He now has to ditch a massive burning airplane into 50-foot ocean swells, fighting a severe headwind all the way down. The Catalina slams into the first wave. The brutal force of the impact and the headwind bounces the airplane 150 feet back into the air. Hornell wrestles the controls, forcing the plane down into a second massive impact. Bursting through the crests of multiple waves, the wreckage finally comes to a halt. As flames engulf the fuselage, the crew frantically inflates 2 rubber dinghies and jumps out into the freezing water. They push away from the wreckage as the Catalina sinks beneath the surface. Only then do they realize Cole's frantic SOS messages never went through. The radio is at the bottom of the ocean, and no one is coming to save them. The roar of combat is replaced by the sheer isolation of the sea. 8 men are now adrift in the freezing, violent swells, bailing water out of partially flooded rubber rafts. Without warning, one of the heavily damaged dinghies explodes, dumping its occupants into the ice-cold ocean. The entire crew is forced to crowd around the single remaining raft, but they cannot all fit inside. Hornell immediately organizes a rotation. A few men stay submerged in the water while the others rest in the dinghy. To protect his crew, Hornell deliberately assigns himself the longest, most unbearable shifts in the freezing sea. He tells his men to hold on, promising them that headquarters received their distress calls and that rescue boats are already on the way, a lie he himself fully believes to be true. But hour after hour, nobody arrives. The ocean systematically drains their body heat and their physical strength, turning the water itself into a far deadlier threat than the U-boat. Sometime later, an Allied Catalina appears in the sky above. The crew frantically fires off 3 separate flares before the pilot finally spots them and banks toward their position. The plane circles overhead and signals down via Morse code. They confirm the U-boat was killed and promise that a high-speed launch boat is on the way. The men cheer, believing the worst is over. But the rescue boat is over 100 miles away. Every passing wave threatens to capsize their small raft, dumping the exhausted crew over and over into the brutal cold as their strength completely fades. The exposure takes its toll. Flight engineer Fernand Laurent becomes delirious, succumbing to hypothermia. Despite his crewmates' desperate attempts to keep him awake, he slips away. A devastated Hornell makes the necessary, agonizing decision to push his body overboard. Above them, the circling Catalina runs low on fuel. It radios the survivor's position one final time and turns toward home. The men are left completely alone in the open sea once again. Later, a large bomber flies over and drops a wooden lifeboat into the water. Despite being blinded by the salt spray, Hornell throws himself into the ocean, desperately trying to swim to it before the heavy winds carry the boat away. His strength fails him, and the boat vanishes behind a wave. Finally, after 21 grueling hours in the water, a spotlight sweeps across the swells. The high-speed launch has arrived. Laying exhausted on the dinghy, Hornell uses the last of his fading strength to watch the sailors pull his crewmen from the water. Knowing his men are safe, he closes his eyes. The rescue team attempts to revive him for 4 hours, but he is gone. Hornell traded his own life to pull his crew through the long night. Thanks to his unwavering leadership and sacrifice, the 5 remaining survivors fully recovered from the ordeal and lived through the rest of the war. Flight Lieutenant David Ernest Hornell was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest military decoration for valor, which was presented to his widow. His second pilot later said, "Outstanding about Flight Lieutenant Hornell was his marvelous ability in flying such a badly damaged aircraft. His courage and bravery throughout marked him as a great man."